Machines at work everywhere, functioning smoothly at times, at other times in fits and starts. It breathes, it heats, it eats, it shits and fucks. What a mistake to have ever said the it. Everywhere it is machines, real ones, not figurative ones. Machines driving other machines, machines being driven by other machines, with all the necessary couplings and connections. An organ machine is plugged into an energy source machine. The one produces a flow that the other interrupts. The breast is a machine that produces milk, and the mouth a machine coupled to it. The mouth of the anorexic wavers between several functions. Its possessor is uncertain as to whether it is an eating machine, an anal machine, a talking machine, or a breathing machine. Hence, we're all handymen, each with his little machines. For every organ machine, an energy machine. All the time flows and interruptions. Judge Schraber has sunbeams in his eyes, a solar anus, and rest assured that it works. Judge Schraber feels something, produces something, and is himself a product of something produced. The self and the non-self, outside and inside, no longer have any meaning whatsoever, since subjective and objective are merely terms that designate products. A schizophrenic out for a walk is a better model than a neurotic lying on the analyst's couch. A breath of fresh air, a relationship with the outside world, laughter. The schizoanalytic venture has no other goal to unleash these flows in a controlled and guided manner. Controlled not by an authoritarian figure.
Well, hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to the Quarantine Collective's ongoing reading of Anti-Oedipus. We're heading into our 20th at this point, and I think Discord has decided to join us officially. You guys should be able to see it nice and fun. It is the Little Joey section. It is Little Joey everywhere, which is going to be a thing, because the next paragraph, we're going to do 2 paragraphs today to make up for last week, because I feel bad. I had a personal family, I don't want to call vacation because it wasn't a vacation, but a family trip. So it just was a nightmare, and wonderful and awful, and like just a lot. There was no way I was going to do two hours of fucking AO and not just slowly collapse. One sec. I actually want to do the light version because I think that'll read better. YouTube, I'm watching you. Tell me if it reads better as white or green. I think it reads much better as the white. Okay, where do we start today? Well, let's fucking start where we're at, trying to catch us up as we get going. We're in the 5th section of Chapter 1. Chapter 1 is about the machines of desire, how they function, what they do, like kind of their setups, and how the ontological process of becoming happens, how meaning is made, all of those things. We aren't in the position yet of talking through how we get to malformed versions or captured versions of desire. This is very much a from the ground ups. They're giving the affirmative case for what the ontology is, building it from step 1, 2, 3, the processes, all of this. Chapter 2 is how the symbolic or representational order perverts or creates paralogisms within that process. that we mistake for things. The third is how historically those things become determined. And the fourth is how we can expand past them. It's a lot. It's a lot. We read the last paragraph took 2 full fucking hours. And it's the opening paragraph of the section. So yeah, but it opened asking like, in what respect are machines of desire really machines? Independent of metaphor, because again, not all metaphors are real. Sorry, great video. I still get a kick out of. That's not what they're doing here. Instead, they're sort of talking through how the machines are machines. And what they did at the opening here is they talked about machines as being systems of cuts, interruptions. It's a unique definition. It's an important one, because as we work through what a machine is, we can talk about gears and all this shit. That's not what they're doing. This is not metaphorical. They're trying to talk specifically through how things are produced in the machinic. So for this to go about it, the machine being defined as a system of cuts, they're being very particular. It's not the cut as slicing something from reality. Right? That's in this paragraph, kind of the first paragraph, what they went over. The whole point is that things exist like a ham slicer, right? We experience the slice, we presume the ham is we look up at the giant ham slicer in the sky and we go, oh, thank you. There must be a gigantic infinite ham on the other side of that. And this is the process of all these things, whether it's milk from a breast, shit from an ass. They go through all of these examples. It is assuming a larger associative flow. And so every machine is a machine of a machine, because a cut only counts as a cut relative to another cut, another presumed flow, another presumed machine that produced that flow. This process, as they're going, is how we get to Joey. There's going to be a lot to talk through here. This is a lot of references and a lot of very specific references here. If there is shit, there must be ass, or if there is ass, there must be shit. It's less that. It's if there is shit, if we shit, there is infinite shit. That this is a cut. We see the end of the shit, therefore we see that there's more. A slice of ham presumes a giant ham hock that it was sliced from. And that presumption is how we sort of come to understand the world as we do, more or less. This is how we see this and then. And they're going to dive right in, and we'll get to it as a thing. But they're going to be going through a whole bunch of sort of traditional psychoanalytic, psychological, clinical shit here really, really fast. We'll get to it in a sec. We'll get to the explanations, but as always, thank you for joining. If you want to support, right here above me, you can see the links. Toss a few bucks my way, never hurts. That's it. Let's do some fucking AO. Let me turn this music down. It is less wonderful when it's... let me see. How loud is that? It's not bad. It's not bad. I'll keep it going. It's I should be overpowering it pretty significantly on YouTube, so we'll see. Connecticut. Connect, I, cut, cries little Joey. Bettelheim draws the picture of this child who lives, eats, defecates, or sleeps only by connecting to machines furnished with motors, wires, lamps, carburetors, propellers, and wheels. Electrical eating machine, auto machine, for breathing, luminous anal machine. Few examples manifest so well the regime of desiring production and the manner in which breaking forms part of the very functioning, or the cut, of machinic connections. No doubt one will say that this mechanical life, schizophrenic, expresses the absence and destruction of desire rather than desire, and supposes certain parental attitudes of extreme negation to which the child reacts by making itself machine. But even Bettelheim, favorable to an Oedipal or pre-Oedipal causality, recognizes that this can only intervene in response to autonomous aspects of the child's productivity or activity, even if it must subsequently determine in the child a non-productive stasis or an attitude of absolute withdrawal. There is therefore first an, quote, autonomous reaction to the total experience of life of which the mother is only a part, end quote. Thus, one must not believe that it is the machines themselves that testify to the loss or repression of desire, what Bettelheim translates in terms of autism. We always find the same problem. How has the process of production of desire, how have the machines of desire of the child set themselves to turning in the void infinitely, in such a manner as to produce the child machine? How has the process transformed itself into an end? Or rather, how has it been victim of a premature interruption or of a horrible exasperation? It is only in relation to the full body, eyes closed, nose pinched, ears stopped up, that something is produced, counterproduced, which diverts or exasperates all the production of which it nonetheless forms a part. But the machine remains desire, position of desire, which pursues its history through originary repression and the return of the repressed, in the succession of paranoiac machines, miraculating machines, and celibate machines. I did this myself. Celibate machines through which joy passes as Bettelheim's therapeutics progresses. This is one of those things that is just going to annoy the shit out of me. Because, again, I fucked up the version control on it, so don't worry about it. I fucked up the version control on this, so all my changes got reverted. It's a very annoying thing. Doesn't matter. We're going to go through this bit by fucking bit. Before we do, is there anything where anyone's like screaming out, oh shit, this is the worst thing ever? Or generally, you ready for me to dive in? Also, let me know if the music's too much, because it's kind of bothering me. All right, let's do it then. Okay. Connecticut, connect, I cut, cries little Joey. Okay, little Joey. Little Joey, little Joey. One of Bettelheim's subjects. I don't have a way to talk about little Joey without relating it to kind of every child I've ever known. I don't, like, it's going to be really hard to sort of do that. Bruno Bettelheim, okay, wrote a lot of things on early sort of stage autism and the beginning of that shift where we started to understand or talk about autism separate from schizophrenia in a more fundamental way. He wrote in the mid 1960s, right prior to this book, about the fortresses of the infantile self, something like that. The Joey material he wrote about some time before. And it kind of led him in this direction. The mechanical boy. Joey had built machines. Like, if you've ever been around a child, like think of Tinker Toys. My son did this. My daughter does this. This is a thing very normal with children, but Joey was like an exceptional case. And he would build machines that did the things for him. He could only be quite literally plugged in. Now, not that they would tie a wire to him and plug him in the wall, but they like would do that thing where like, oh my God, I can't breathe because I don't have this thing. The point is Joey would make these crazy fucking contraptions and then have to deal with the world through this purely machinic way of understanding it. Not really the kid from Toy Story. No, this is much more of a direct, literal thing. He would create machines, quite literally, these insane contraptions that he would draw. The opening here, because it's kind of a couple steps we talk to get through it, and so I'm going to try to stay more in line with sort of the thing. We open with this interesting thing. Bettelheim draws this picture of the child who lives, eats, defecates, or sleeps only by connecting to machines furnished with motors, wires, lamps, carburetors, propellers, wheels, electrical eating machine, auto machine for bring. That's a lot. This is going to be fucking a lot. Connecticut, connect, I cut, cries little Joey. This is a thing that Bettelheim claims Joey said. It's an utterance that is an event itself as they're talking about it. A continuous phonic material in the word Connecticut, which is a state. Everyone in America calls it Connecticut, but connect, I cut. Joey's breaking up this smooth thing. The cut doesn't sever the word from reality. Connect, I cut produces something within the word while keeping it here. It's this is the introduction of Yelmslev. This is the first real introduction of Yelmslevian semiotics, and it's really difficult to sort of not dive in a really big way here, because what's happening is the production of, through the meaning of this and through the utterance itself, there's a weird pun happening, but also how meaning is sort of made. It's a demonstration of the machine, as they've talked about it, the machine of cuts by the patient. So you could say, on the one hand, this is traditional schizophrenia. Look, the child. This is a child who's breaking down, and they're losing it. It's a symptom of schizophrenia, the loosening of associations and all of that. Bettelheim didn't go that route, which is really great and interesting. But specifically, the thing that's being cut out, connect, I cut, Connecticut, the pronoun is what is being extracted. This is such an amazing little sentence. I am way overthinking it. I don't give a fuck. This is like one of the best sentences of the book. In the way that it's being said by Joey. Connecticut, connect, I cut, cries little Joey. Joey's claiming the cutting is being done by himself. It's the doctrine of the residual subject produced alongside the machine within it during the cuts of the word itself. Okay? It's not presiding over it. He's doing the thing to it. He's doing the thing to it. And as we get going, and we're going to see, and that's why I was really pissed at myself for the Bachelor machine, this paragraph ends about this. This is, we're in the space of registration and how registration produces the subject, okay? The thing that's happening here and the thing he's playing with is, and it's really interesting because the French version has this in there. So this is actually better almost for an English speaker. Like, the pun is like native, and they're playing with a foreignness inside of it, inside of the French. It's really complex to sort of take it this way. But the thing that's really interesting here is the choice and how it's set up. But that's the thing that's being laid here, is Joey, Connecticut, connect, I cut, cries little Joey. And then we get to like the big brunt of this. Bettelheim drawing the picture, blah, 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 blah. The Bettelheim reference is diving much deeper into this. And Ben has linked to it, and it's worth sort of reading through this to fully grasp the setup. There's a lot happening. But the stuff that Joey is being talked about, what he furnishes and how he sets up, the list of items, the motors, wires, lamps, carburetors, propellers, and wheels, like these are not symbols of anything. These are the parts of all of it, right? The last paragraph, the opening paragraph of this section asked, how are design machines when we don't mean as metaphor? Like this. This is it, right? This is the thing. The play. The machine is not a metaphor for the organism, and the organism is not metaphor for a machine. These are fundamentally different things, and there is only machines here. They're not bringing organisms down and breaking them apart into a bunch of pieces. There are only machines. The organism is a separate generation as part of this. Okay. And that's what they're talking about. The connecting two machines furnished with motors, wires, lamps, carburetors, propellers, and wheels. And the types of machines that he's sort of going through, the three named ones, the eating machine, auto machine, and anal machine. The alimentary, the respiratory, and the anal. These are, again, if we go back to the previous paragraph, I really don't want to go back to it fully, but we talked about exactly these things: the flow of shit, the flow of breath, and the flow of milk. These are the same things. These are the three machines. They map onto the flows of the previous section. But again, the previous paragraph. But again, it's about the cuts in them. That's the thing at length. This is not like Joey doing some exotic, weird, crazy shit. These are the machines Bettelheim recorded him doing. Well, that's because they map onto the stuff that Joey deals with. He's doing with the hardware he has what organ machines do invisibly. Their argument is this. And yeah, Ben, boy with machine, Ben posts the image. Yes. That's like the fundamental thing here. And it's important. The other side of this that I think is really important, and I think it's crossed over enough. There is a language inside of this where it's about the auto forms. And it doesn't carry across super cleanly from the French, but they're all automatic. But Bettelheim really focused on autism. And so these are all machines that are sort of autonomes. The reaction autonome. I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't really care, but they're in terms of what we would call in modern day autism. They constantly are playing with this, but you'll see this set up sort of as we get going, especially as we continue. Does this make sense so far? Okay. It's a lot, but again, literally this entire paragraph is in that first line. Connect, I cut, cries little Joey. It's so good. The three machines are shit, breast, and milk. No, they're the machines that produce those and consume those. They're the anal machine, the auto machine for breathing, and the electrical eating machine. Joey built machines that are the autonomic parts of his existence. He shits, he eats, he breathes. He built these machines as he did with like a bunch of wires and stuff, and then they would have to pretend that they're plugging him in so Joey could talk, and then they'd start the talking machine up. They'd have to talk to him this way. It was really like every kid kind of does this to some point. Joey was an extreme version of it, and that's why it's really useful. But I think the last time we were doing this, Dexter was in the process of building machines. I have a few of his still sitting around somewhere here because it was really weird, the coincidence of it. But he would build me literal machines so that way I could do X, Y, or Z, or that he could have a plug-in machine because he knows I was getting frustrated with so he built me this. He cut out a piece of paper, but to him, he was building me a machine to do that. This really odd interaction. It's very normal for kids. This is the kind of way that we teach them. Here's how things work. Do X, then Y. You need a machine to do this. That's set up and as a thing. Doubtless there are those who will object to the mechanical schizophrenic life. Is that, Malachi, is that in this? Have I read it yet? I haven't read it yet. I don't even know where that is. Oh, it's the next paragraph. We're getting there. It's the next sentence. We're getting there. Few examples manifest so well the regime of desiring production and the manner in which breaking forms part of the very functioning or the cut of machinic connections. This is what Joey is for. They've got two claims in here that need to be sort of broken apart. The second is going to be kind of the fundamental. The first thing they're talking about is kind of that breakage belongs to functioning. The manner in which breaking forms part of the very functioning itself. That's the cut, the break, the interruption is the functioning. The machinic connection is the cut, right? Or the cut of machinic connections. That's what they're saying here. They've laid them on top. So functioning is cutting, right? And so they've opened that. They opened that right here. Connect, I, cut, again, and also the previous paragraph as well. That's the thing that they're playing with. Joey is an example because in his case, the identity he has and what he's doing is not inferred. It is directly observed. He cuts, and through that he connects. Connect, I, cut. It's not inferred. It's not like some weird symbolic connection. He's saying it very directly. He breaks, and thereby he runs. He breaks, and thereby he runs. Okay? And again, this is a very loaded polemic against generalized psychiatry as a thing. Clinically, traditional psychiatric setups would talk about what Joey is doing as splitting. Bleuler, who we talked about earlier, and I have many opinions on, because he's the guy who talked about schizophrenia, and it's always about splitting. For him, the split, the cut, the break was a break from reality. This is how we talk about it, even in common parlance. Oh, it's a psychotic break. Oh, you're snapping. Oh, gee. Like that kind of mentality is base to general psychiatric thought. The cut is the thing that is a cut from reality. You're now broken off of it. They're not a big fan of that. They're actually explicitly opposed to this as a thing. The whole point is that Joey is demonstrating cut as production. That's the thing. I would also say that if you have the Hurley in front of you, you will see how absolutely awful the translation is. It's the worst. I fucking hate this so much. I hate Hurley's translation here so much. But let's get to the question Malachi had, which is this line. No doubt, one will say that this mechanical life, schizophrenic, expresses the absence and destruction of desire rather than desire, and supposes certain parental attitudes of extreme negation to which the child reacts by making itself machine. They're steel manning an argument that they know they're going to get that is very, very common inside of general psychoanalytic forums, like as a thing. Like that's what they're doing. And again, it's very much directly against the fortress as a thing. The phrasing expresses the absence and destruction of desire rather than desire. You could say this would be the Freudian or Lacanian view of this, that what he's doing is trying to make up for something he's missing. What Joey's doing is dealing with an absence. No doubt that we will have people who say that this mechanical life, schizophrenic, expresses the absence and destruction of desire rather than desire itself, right? And that's the psychoanalytic reading of autism as a defensive void, which is commonly how it's talked about, and I think not just in that space. And so because of that, it's necessarily this parental etiology that sort of is layering things in. And that's Bettelheim's. The refrigerator mother, which we're going to be talking about shortly, comes from the same book, right? This objection is the book we're referencing, right? The Empty Fortress, which is the book on autism, Bettelheim, and all this shit, is about a fortress that's empty, hence the fucking title. The whole argument of this, as they're doing it and as they're using Bettelheim against himself, is saying, no, the fortress isn't empty. You just don't understand how it works. The word I would hang on to around a lot of this very specifically is negation. And that's the sort of noun that they're going to be playing with. It's not the psychological adjective as a thing. Bettelheim talks about parental attitudes of negation, an extreme negation is the phrasing they use, but it's negation. It's a heavy implication here. The idea is that the child internalizes and creates an empty fortress in order to deal with that negation that the parents bring in. That's Hegelian, Lacanian, Zizekian schemas. And this is what, I mean, aside from Deleuze and Guattari's entire corpus at this point, the book has been pretty clear about trying to think about desire without lack. That's the big thing here. So that's what that means, Malachi. They're basically steel manning an oppositional line that they know they're going to get, that I think people have even used. Zizek in Organs Without Bodies, I think, even talks about this, which is, again, proof he didn't read the fucking book. That's fine. Because the whole point for them is that it's not about the negation, or the parents specifically. It's not about there being lack and building an empty fortress. It's not any of that. It's they're pushing back against lack as clinical, more or less. And that last little bit, to which the child reacts by making itself a machine. This is the Bettelheim's idea for the empty fortress, right? The child does not become a machine, one object amongst many, many objects. He makes himself machine. There's a difference in that, right? I make myself scarce, for example, and I run. I'm making myself the thing. That's the interplay that's happening here very specifically. The objection needs the child to have become a thing. And in the French, en se faisant machine, that's the point. The French denies it. The sort of article or the grammar, the way that they're writing, is the big deal here. What's that weird footnote? I don't know. I resent calling people who are not reading a book. Zizek, I believe, really doesn't read anymore, sadly. I did a stream last night on his latest article, and I found it embarrassing. And I just am sad. I'm saddened by him as a person, just fundamentally. So all of this, they're building up Bettelheim's empty fortress, all of this, and then they go, whoa, we know we're getting this objection. Oh, here we go, Malachi. But even Bettelheim, favorable to an Oedipal or pre-Oedipal causality, recognizes that this can only intervene in response to autonomous aspects of the child's productivity or activity, even if it must subsequently determine in the child a non-productive stasis or an attitude of absolute withdrawal. This is their counter to the steel manning they just did. Because even Bettelheim, their point is, even Bettelheim jumped in and was like, nah, that's really not it. That's not it. In Bettelheim's work, they're finding an admission that his framework can't metabolize. His framework can't digest and handle as a thing. Oedipal causality isn't denied, right? That's not. This book is Anti-Oedipus in a very particular way. It doesn't mean that that they think parents don't impact their children. That would be stupid. Let me say that again. That would be stupid to say parents don't affect their kids at all. That's not what they're saying. What they're doing is demoting what that relationship is. They're demoting that. That's the point. It intervenes. Oedipalization intervenes. It is real. It has effects. Its effects are stasis and withdrawal. But it cannot ever come first. It cannot come first. It is in response to something that is already being produced. Production is positive. It produces forward. Everything is in response to production, including Oedipal, the Oedipal castration, Oedipal issues, all of that. That is the point. Even if what it's doing, and that's what they're talking about here, even if it must subsequently determine in the child basically not doing shit, like stopping production, even if it comes in to stop production, autism, again, the empty fortress is the is a book. It's a good book. It's an interesting book, but that's their point. Even if it must subsequently determine in the child a non-productive stasis or attitude of absolute withdrawal, even if it stops production, it is not a thing that came first. This is the whole theory of repression in Anti-Oedipus in a sentence. They do this a lot, but this is, again, very, very, very good for this one, right? Oedipus is not the cause of desire. It is what folds down onto desire and arrests it. It's very particular here. It is non-productive stasis. Improductive. I think in French. There's a really interesting phrasing. It's not stray words here being said. It's not random shit. This is the predicate of the body without organs, which is the unproductive, the sterile, the unengendered. That's what they're talking. Like, all of these things are related, right? The stasis that Bettelheim is observing and writes about in his book is not the absence of a machine. It's not negation. It's not nothing. It's not void. It's not emptiness. It is improductivity on the surface that the machines came to a stop with. That's the point. Oh, Brooks, is there a way they're going to say it directly? Oh, yeah, that's right. The next sentence. There is therefore first an autonomous reaction to the total experience of life of which the mother is only a part. That's kind of a damning, it's kind of a damning thing for Bettelheim. And it's good. Like, again, good authorship is where you actually say things that may not perfectly fit what you're saying. This is that. This is Bettelheim's. This is the empty fortress, straight up, right? I believe 32 is actually saying, here's the page you can go find it on. Like, hey, look, here he's saying the thing we just said. He's saying it. They're not paraphrasing him. They're quoting him because these are his words. The refutation of the parental etiology is performed by him, right? Written by the author of the parental etiology. Of which the mother is only a part. This is a concession that they are cashing in on really hard because they're not disagreeing. They're like, yeah, the mother's a part. Of course the mother's a part. Like, of course, duh, mother's a part. But mother only a part. It's one element in a field. It is not the cause of the field. That's not how that can't work that way. And in the vocabulary of what we're talking about here, the demotion of the mother from cause to partial object amongst many in a field or on a plane, this is the big deal. This is the big deal here that they're making, right? That's the big deal they're making here. All right, Malachi has switched to YouTube. In Lacanian terms, is autism the experience of the other as threatening? So the autistic withdraws, prefers sameness, and accepts. I will not speak enough. I can't authoritatively speak on Lacan, specifically how he sees autism. And I won't, that is a pit of fucking vipers that also are confused. It's a pit of confused vipers, I think would be the best way to describe that discussion. But what I can say is that Bettelheim's push, and generally within the psychoanalytic community at this time especially, the idea was that the parents were the ultimate cause of receding within the child and the creation of the empty fortress. And again, it's an interesting book and has a lot of really good sort of study work on Joey and I think a couple other kids that he's pulling from. But their argument is it's not that you create an empty fortress. It's that you turn into one. Oh, Pesci, I know. To continue. Thus, one must not believe that it is the machines themselves that testify to the loss or repression of desire, what Bettelheim translates in terms of autism. That's the conclusion. They take Bettelheim's concession and they say, hey, that's the big deal. The parenthetical is important here. what Bettelheim translates in terms of autism, right? Because the sentence basically is saying autism is Bettelheim's name for the loss or repression of desire. It is not that autism is a condition that Bettelheim explains by reference to lost desire. Autism is the translation. It is what the loss of desire is called when put into clinical idiom. Terminology. Not clinical terminology. Clinical terminology. I like idiom. Clinical idiom. I'm going to say idiom. And now we get into the fun part. I know. Pasha, you already know. Anti-Oedipus does not exclude autism from its object. That's not what it's doing. That's not how it's set up. Joan, if you have questions, I mean, you can kind of type them anywhere. And if you @ Brooks, as long as you're in the wherever, you can type wherever. I'm generally pretty open because the Discord is not for everyone, for sure. But there is a chat inside of where all of us are gathered that you can type within. That should be fine. Yeah, it kind of works anywhere. They use the worm here. Bettelheim translates. Traduit translates. And it's traduit is a little different than, like, again, the English colloquialism that is, oh, I'm translating this from another language. You have to think about what translation means. That's more what traduit is. The operation of a translation is a thing that is not neutral. It's not, oh, we're exchanging it from one language to another. Translation is about sort of the shifting of what a thing is and having it encompass a bit more or a bit less, and maybe both in a lot of different ways. The whole point is the thing. They're going to make a few comments on this as we get through it, but the autistic figure, as they're talking about it here, is on the entity side of process, or the distinction of entities. Anyone saying that autism falls outside of the scope of it is working against the text here, because they're being very particular about how they're talking through this. They're speaking. It's very important to understand this. It's very important to understand this. Sorry, I have to go over it a bit. The second thing is worth sort of understanding for me when it comes to their intentions, because the rest of this paragraph and the rest of this section and book is going to be, there's a lot more use of these terms in these ways. And it's really worth understanding how these things sort of come about and how they set up. The thing they're saying is that, like, the loss of desire is what Bettelheim translates in terms of autism. The testify to the loss or repression of desire, what Bettelheim translates in terms of autism. This is the thing they're going. They're naming a word formed by the excision they are describing. Connect, I cut. Autoerotism. I'm not saying they necessarily have this fully in mind, but the sentence hits in a very strong way as you're reading it in French, that the reference doesn't, I think, fall on deaf ears here. It's a really, really complex sort of interplay of words. Doesn't matter. We're going to keep moving, just as my little side ramble, more or less. They continue. We always find the same problem. How has the process of production of desire, how have the machines of desire of the child set themselves to turning in the void infinitely, in such a manner as to produce the child machine? How has the process transformed itself into an end? I'm doing all the questions at once. Or rather, how has it been a victim of premature interruption or of a horrible exasperation? If you have the Hurley in front of you, enjoy. Enjoy. It's a lot. These are 3 questions they're laying out. These are not rhetorical variations of a single question. That's not what they're doing. They're modalities of betrayal. There are 3 of them, and they're kind of big deal as we talk about the three syntheses and paralogisms as we go forward. They're going to structure a lot of shit in the rest of the book. And so we're going to take a moment to talk through each one of them. First is turning in the void infinitely. How have the machines of desire set themselves to turning in the void infinitely in such a manner as to produce the child machine? Oh, well, I'll answer. Don't worry, Anton. Transformation of a process into a but or a goal, premature interruption. How has the process transformed itself into an end? How has it been the victim of premature interruption, of horrible exasperation? These are layers of a single thing. Throughout the text, they're going to come back to this. They're going to return almost like verbatim when they start talking about schizophrenics and autistics and everything. We are sick from schizophrenia as process, for example. They're going to say that. They're going to say that the process turns back in a horrible exasperation. They're going to go over all of these things. It's a big deal. The turning in a void in infinity. I don't know if there's, I have a lot of emotional response to this because this is a fucking hot button issue amongst a whole bunch of people who are super fucking annoying. Right here, what they're talking about, they want to ask, how is the process of production of desire? Because desire is always an affirming outward push. It's always constructive. It's machines interrupting, but those machines are also producing. Production is cuts. Production is cuts. So how have the machines of desire of the child set themselves to turning in a void infinitely in a manner to produce the child machine, the totalized child machine? How has this happened? How have they begun to just sort of eat themselves and not connect in the outside world? The empty fortress. The empty fortress is who they're talking about. How has the process transformed itself into an end? How did in the autistic child we see this, that the process of the constructive thing turned the child into the fortress that is empty. They turned themselves into this. The distinction of process and entity, the thing that this fundamentally book just hits on over and over, is incredibly important. But the thing they're like aiming at here is Kraepelin, who we went over a little bit ago. He defined dementia praecox, not by symptoms, but by terminal state. He defined a lot of things by outcome. The disease that is there is not about the active sickness. It's about the end point. It is its end. That's the idea. Instead, the idea of process, the idea of an eruption that breaks into a life rather than a development that unfolds within life. This is the thing they want to take over. This is what they want to play with. So to ask how a process turned into an end, how it turned into an end is how this is the question of the book. This is the thing they're going to be answering. I'm not going to answer it right now, but that's the thing they're driving at. How has it been a victim of premature eruption, of a horrible exasperation? It is only in relation to the full body. Eyes closed, nose pinched, ears stopped up. Full body is a very important phrase, and I'm going to make the same comment as I usually do. Corpse plane, it means full body, not completed. Full, filled, like stuffed to the fucking brim. The completed full body. Eyes closed, nose pinched, ears stopped up. That is the empty fortress. That is I'm not connecting with the outside world. I'm not breathing. I'm not hearing. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. See no evil, smell no evil, hear no evil, I guess. Same kind of thing. It is only in relation to this filled body, the complete. the fattened, the plain, that something is produced, counterproduced, which diverts or exasperates, all the production of which it nonetheless forms a part. But the machine remains desire, position of desire, which pursues its history through originary oppression and the return of the repressed, in the succession of paranoiac machines, miraculity machines, and bachelor machines through which Joey passes as Bettelheim's therapeutics progresses. You can actually witness in Bettelheim's work Joey shift and change through basically the three syntheses taking various parts or setups. They lean very heavily on Joey. Very heavily on Joey in a lot of this. Malika says, does Bettelheim believe autism is the loss of desire because the bad mother cuts the boy off from shaboinking his mommy, or am I misreading Oedipal causality? It isn't as simple as just, oh, Joey wants his mom or any of that. This is not the Freudian version of it. This is more complicated. And again, it's why I would recommend probably reading Bettelheim's work, because the stuff that he sort of goes into and how he sort of talks through it, I think it's not bad. It's interesting. And it's, there is some really difficult shit in there because, Bettelheim spent time in Dachau and Buchenwald. If you don't know those words, you should. Go Google that. That's a whole, enjoy that journey. And so there's a lot of stuff that he's pulling from that. The camps he was in, the setup he was in, but it's not directly that. It's that the cause, the parents foreclosed on part of Joey. The parents helped build parts of that Bettelheim is more playing with the idea that what they've done, what the parents did, more or less, is for him, they created in the child a empty fortress, like a soul with the walls around it. That's probably too gross of a way to say it. It's worth reading. It's more nuanced than I'm giving it credit for. I want to be very clear, but it's very particular in that sense. It's a very particular thing. So, yeah, it's tough. It's tough to hit the wording like exactly. But yeah, that's probably how I'd finish that. Anyone have questions on this one? Because the next paragraph is significant. And this is mostly laying out the psychiatric and clinical explanation of the machinic unconscious's first characteristic. The idea that it's about a continuous flow that is being cut, the presumed continuity of things that are cut. And we've closed it on Joey, who basically had all of these broken machines. And instead of saying, oh, he's broken and empty, that's it. Instead, the push is to say, no, the brakes are actually the machine's functioning. It's not that he isn't measuring up to the actual shape of a person. It's that he is building. It's only in relation to the full body, eyes closed, nose pinched, ears stopped up, that something is produced and counterproduced, which diverts or exasperates all the production of which it nonetheless forms a part. They'll be getting more in depth into that in the next paragraph, way more in depth in chapter 2 as a thing, because that first cut is basically operating on the flows. Now we're going to be moving in the next paragraph to talk about chains, or the operation of detachment. This is connection, connect, cut, the first syntheses. This is the first syntheses, more or less, and how it's sort of the machinic side of it operates. Cool? Anyone? Cool. All right. Fair enough. And Joan, if you have any questions, just type away. As I like to always tell new people, if you go back, it's still on Spotify and Apple and everything. My first reading of Anti-Oedipus was really terrible. I was bad. It was bad. I had a lot of smart people correcting me, luckily, so the recordings are still worthwhile. But I asked a lot of dumb questions. So you will never outdo my stupidity. Trust me. It's wonderful. Luckily, we had a lot of postdocs and professors actually joining us for the first 2 years. And still do, actually, on occasion. A few of you are here. It's nice to have you. Let's get to the next paragraph. This is a lot. When I say this is a lot, I mean, like, there's a lot said in here. How do I preface this and set it up? We're going to be opening with in second place. Every machine comprises in the second place. We're now moving into the second bit, the second syntheses. Again, this is not step 1, step 2, step 3. These are imminent to each other. This is Kantian style syntheses. Go read Difference of Repetition or read Kant. I don't recommend that to sort of have a better understanding of what I mean by that. But the first operates on flows, the first step, the first cut. The second is chains. Okay? That's the big deal here. And it's going to be a lot of Lacan. So if any of you have a background in Lacan, enjoy. LJ, I'm just, there's a lot said here. And I'm going to be doing my best through Lacan here. This is a lot. Every machine comprises in the second place a sort of code that is machined, stockpiled in it. This code is inseparable not only from its recording and transmission in the different regions of the body, but from the recording of each of the regions in its relations with the others. Sorry, pardon me. An organ can be associated with multiple flux according to different connections. It can hesitate between several regimes and even take on itself the regime of another organ, the anorexic mouth. All sorts of functional questions arise. Which flux to cut? Where to cut? How and in what mode? What place to leave for other producers or anti-producers? The place of the little brother. Must one or must one not suffocate with what one eats, swallow air, shit with one's mouth? Everywhere the recordings, the information, the transmissions form a grid of disjunctions of another type than the preceding connections. It falls to Lacan to have discovered this rich domain of a code of the unconscious, widening around the chain or chains of the signifying, and to have thus transformed analysis. The basic text in this regard is the purloined letter. But how strange this domain is by virtue of its multiplicity, to the point that one can scarcely speak of a chain or even of a desiring code. The chains are said to be signifying because they're made of signs, but these signs are not themselves signifying. The code resembles less a language than a jargon, an open and polyvocal formation. The signs are of any nature, right here. The signs are of any nature whatsoever, indifferent to their support, or is it not the support that is indifferent to them? The support is the full body. They have no plan, work at all levels and in all connections. Each speaks its own language and establishes with others syntheses all the more direct in traversal as they remain indirect in the dimension of elements. The disjunctions proper to these chains do not yet imply any exclusion, exclusions being able to arise only through a play of inhibitors and repressors that come to determine the support and fix a specific and personal subject. No chain is homogeneous, but resembles a procession of letters of different alphabets, and where there would suddenly surge an ideogram, a pictogram, the small image of an elephant passing or a sun rising. All of a sudden in the chain, which mixes, without composing them, phonemes, morphemes, etc., there appears Papa's mustache, Mama's raised arm, a ribbon, a little girl, a cop, a shoe. Each chain captures fragments of other chains from which it draws a surplus value, as the orchid's code draws the figure of a wasp. Phenomenon of surplus value of code. It is an entire system of switchings and drawings of lots that form partially dependent random phenomena, close to a Markov chain. The recordings and transmissions come in from internal codes, from the internal milieu, from one region to another of the organism, cross-following the perpetually ramifying paths of the great disjunctive synthesis. If there is writing there, it is a writing at the level of the real, strangely polyvocal and never biunivocalized, linearized, a transcursive writing, never discursive. The entire domain of the real organization of passive syntheses, where one would seek in vain something one would call the signifier, and which ceases not to compose and decompose the chains into signs that have no vocation to be signifying. To produce desire, such is the only vocation of the sign, in all the senses in which it is machined. If you can't tell, they quite like Lacan, actually. This is actually like very positive on Lacan. Hey, they just summarized ATP. Yes, they did. They really did. I mean, that's not fair. There's some really good stuff in ATP, but mostly, yes, this is it's a lot. It's a lot. But it's really, this is I read it as being incredibly positive on Lacan. First thing I'll say up front is go read the Purloined Letter, which is maybe one of the best things ever. Like, it's just one of the best things written. It's such an interesting, complex reading of Edgar Allan Poe. And then from there, afterwards, go read The Purloined Poe, which is a wonderful book on the Purloined Letter, which is Lacan's essay on the Purloined Letter by Edgar Allan Poe. Purloined Poe is wonderful. What does anorexic mean in this context? Bulimic, specifically. Anorexia, bulimia, it means shitting out your mouth. They vomit out the mouth. That's what that's what they're talking about. So the anorexic vomits up their food. But again, and they're very clear about that in a handful of things. I'm pretty confident as a thing. All right. Shall we start at the beginning? I see. I didn't understand how a mouth was anorexic. Yeah, it's, yeah. Wait, should it be bulimic then? Welcome to the nightmare of translating. I would argue no, because they didn't have necessarily separation there, and they are very clear about the phrasing in French, and so I would leave it. To continue, every machine comprises in the second place a sort of code that is machined, stockpiled in it. Here we go. Let's pivot. Let's fucking get right to the disjunctive right away. Okay, so we're now adding to the machines. Okay, we're adding. It's a second cut. Every machine comprises in the second place a sort of code that is machined, that is stockpiled in it. This is not a mind or a brain or an intention or meaning. We're not there yet. Okay, we're not there yet. That's not what the second is. This is enregistrement. This is the second syntheses. This is code. The code is itself machined. It's the nature of the cut of the flow, where the cuts happen, how the cuts happen, and they're happening a lot. All those cuts, they shape things and they create the codes of things. The codes are machined. They're not written into the machine by some externalized author, right? It is produced in the process of the cut from the first syntheses. Is this the meaning of code as an anthropology? Correct. This is the anthropological term of coding. They're very particular here. Yes. So we'll get to that because again, I'm just going to stay in this language right now. There's too many directions to go here, but they are being very particular. And it's also, they're playing in a very interesting register because they're going to be playing a lot also with biology, by the way, right? Specifically molecular biology, specifically DNA, actually. So code referent, yes, anthropology, but they're pulling in another register just to fuck with you completely. Genetic code, and you should go read Susan Oyama, is stored, it is transcribed, and it is read. Just as this book, before this book came out, was the major push for this understanding of things. Okay. This is a Jacob and Menard's operant model, which came out right before this and is incredibly important to all of this. But the idea is, like in the genetic sequence, the code is stockpiled. It's held in reserve. It isn't necessarily in the thing, and it's not at large of a thing. Evolution's eye is good. Ontogeny of information would be closer to this, but they both work perfectly well. The whole point is the terminology that they're borrowing, that is storage and inventory, which again is an economic register. A lot of registers being pulled. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. But all of these things are being pulled, and they're going to be doing things with what is being stockpiled, what is being stored. Okay. Not in this paragraph. Again, production, marks, happens all at once, but in steps, yet all at once. Okay. This code is inseparable, not only from its recording and transmission in the different regions of the body, but from the recording of each of these regions in relations with the others. Okay, so we have two levels of registration here. I think the second one is the cool one, but we'll get to that. You know what? No, fuck it. So the second thing that's happening here is that the code is being recorded in regions. And then the relations of those regions are then recorded, right? So the code is inseparable not only from its recording and transmission in the different regions of the body, but it is inseparable also from the recording of each of the regions in its relations with the others. This is marks. Like, this is, again, it's so hard for me not to go, I don't want to say like this is the boring stuff, but this is just, if you understand capitalism, that's how it works. That's how it works. That's how capitalism works. This is just Marx. This is fucking Grundrisse. This is straight up that thing. That which is produced, the code of it, the little bit that's made, is inseparable not only from its recording. The recording is attached to it, and the transmission is attached to it. These things are not break apartable. You can't go, oh, this is no, it's all at once. But also it is inseparable from the recording of each of the regions in its relations with others. This is huge. This makes every code actually a grid. This is not a list. This is why they use the term enregistrement. This is why the idea of a ledger is more interesting, because it's not just, oh, I'm putting a thing here. I'm just writing a list out. A list is unrelated. No, it's a ledger. That it is related to all the other ledgers because things are in particular places and there's specific relations here, and then the qualities here, and then this fucking thing we've got set up this way, and it affects these cells over in this other part of the Excel spreadsheet. It's a grid, not a list. And it is going to continue to license this as we go forward, as we do this. You'll see kind of the language here, because this is the structure of the body without organs as a recording surface. It doesn't contain inscriptions. That's not really the thing here. That's a different placement within social. That's a whole different thing. We're way before that. This is the surface on which the relations of inscriptions are also themselves inscribed. So the relations are built into it and also recorded alongside it. Okay. Does that make sense? I know it's a lot. Does that make sense? It's not really a mind map. It's that every code is its recording, its transmission, and its placement. Oh, shit. One sec. Oh, what the fuck? My computer just went weird. Am I still streaming? It looks like I am. Hello?
The Discord is still streaming normally.
Okay. Okay, good. I'm frozen on YouTube. Excellent. I'm back. Good. Fucking, what the fuck? Okay, now. That's fun. I love when things happen and I don't understand why. That's my favorite thing to happen to a computer. We'll keep going. An organ can be associated with multiple flux according to different connections. It can hesitate between several regimes and even take on itself the regime of another organ, the anorexic mouth. This is a clinical example doing the conceptual work. They're bringing in, and again, this is why they're moving right towards Lacan. This is the setup. The anorexic mouth, as I mentioned, is very specific. It is a mouth that has stopped being the mouth machine, which stops the milk flow, right? It's become something else. I read it as bulimic. It doesn't even need to be that. An anorexic mouth no longer eats. It is indicative and part of a different system, right? That's more or less the point. I read it as a very particular thing, and I know they mean it that way, but you don't have to. It's, if we're talking about an anorexic's mouth, it's not, they're not eating with it. That's right. Right? Like they're not, do you get what I mean? Like they're not eating with it, and it's a fucking eating machine. Or is it not anymore? Like that's kind of the point. That's kind of what they're driving at here. If that makes sense. The important thing here is that it's now operating under almost a foreign code, right? And so the disjunctive synthesis is not simply either or. It's not just that. It's not just done there. The organ hesitates. It's the first like 2 or 3 sentences of the book. Also, by the way, it hesitates between all of these functions, all of these regimes, and it can be several things. The organ isn't just one thing. Your mouth doesn't only do one thing. It's this machine that connects in these various ways. It hesitates between these things. The register it operates is not fixed by anatomy. It's not predetermined by biology or any of these other things. The mouth is not defined by eating, because you do other shit with it. It's defined by not just breathing or sucking something or spitting or sticking your tongue out as a joke or kissing. Like it does a bunch of shit. It does a bunch of different shit. That's the point. The regime is the point. It shifts. It hesitates. Hesitation is going to be a really important word for that, but that's what it means. It hesitates. And I'm going to be very specific here. Hurley translates this as it may waver between several functions. I'm not sure I can hate a translation more than that sentence. I hate that a lot. Because it's literally entre plusieurs regimes. It's about the regimes, the social orders and organizations that it is operating under, and it's able to hesitate between them. We don't understand a mouth as its own thing. Instead, it is all of the different regimes it is parts of that it is able to hesitate and switch between. And it becomes parts of those different things as a setup. It fractures the fucking point of this goddamn book. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's awful. Fucking awful. Like, sorry, it's just like the simplest shitty way to fucking, anyway. All sorts of functional questions arise. Which flux to cut? Where to cut? How and in what mode? What place to leave for other producers or anti-producers? The place of little brother. Must one or must one not suffocate what one eats? Swallow air? Shit with one's mouth? I like this. I love the writing here. This is what code is. Like, this is like demonstrable. This is what code is. But they're stating it as like questions because it's easier. Because a code is not a meaning to be decoded. Is regime synonymous with determinate conditions? No, because they would mean that. What they mean is regime is hierarchically structured representational organ space that it attaches to. So the regime of the breathing. The regime, what breathing is an entire action regime, requires a handful of organs in particular organization for that to happen. This is a larger scale social determination conditions, yes, in that sense. But it would be, it's now part of the eating system or ecosystem or regime. Oh, now it's part of the I don't know, Brazzers machine. Now it's part of the spitting machine. Like there's just all of these things, but it's each of those are regimes. They're larger scale social orders. It is code. And that's kind of the point. What flux to cut, where to cut, how and in what mode. This is what code is. Code is not meaning that is decoded. It is operant decisions. Which flow, what flux, where, how, what mode, what room is left for anything else as they sort of have it here. The questions are asked in almost, think of it as a second person, not first person, second person of an infantile body, right? The little brother line, if you have younger siblings, then this will make more sense probably. If you don't have younger siblings, maybe you are the one, then it's about you. It's not that a little brother is a rival in a triangulation with the parents or a triangulation with some other thing. That's not really the setup. Specifically, the little brother is an anti-producer. Okay? The little brother is an anti-producer here. They occupy a place on the recording surface. It's the first place they're really going to be talking about anti-production. This is a performance of the BWO. It's what the BWO performs. And it's a positional thing. It's a place. This is not a stage or a psychodrama that is taking part of things. It's not the setup at all. That's not the setup at all. That's little brother, anti-producers. So the point they're making is not provocative, despite shitting with one's mouth being fucking hilarious. And yes, it is a very good South Park episode. I fucking adore that. I am an immature human being. I don't care. Their point here is that the disjunctive synthesis in its inclusive use is kind of working this way. You eat and suffocate. Like, do you understand? Hey, let me take a big gulp of water and breathe at the same time. No, you're removing the breathing mouth from the breathing machine to use it as part of the eating machine. But it's not only one or the other. I mean, it is in a moment, but it isn't only that forever. I drink water and I decide to starve myself. I talk and I decide to not eat. Right? That's the point. Okay? These things are not exclusive alternatives quite yet. They're both at this level, at least. They're both at this level. They're both at this level. 1 second. What's going on, buddy? Well, wait. Ask her where she's going. Do you want to see Violet off?
Let me just pass this one level.
She's not going to have time.
Okay.
You better hurry, bud. Dexter suffers from FOMO. Don't tell me I can't breathe and drink at the same time. It's when I was learning to swim as a child, my dad's lesson, he was like, it's rule 1. You can't breathe water. And that's the must one, or must one not suffocate with what one eats? Yes, you must. You must swallow air or shit with your mouth. Like they're able to say that without flinching because it isn't at the point yet where the body is obligated to choose. At the point of codes, all of these, yes. That's what they're saying. Everything. This is what they're saying. Malachi says, with the following paragraph be about the connective synthesis and the effect of coding. The preceding paragraph was about the connective synthesis. This is the disjunctive and then the conjunctive. So sort of. It's not about what's being stockpiled, it's about what's being consumed. What's being stockpiled is here, and then consumption. It's just Marx. Like, just literally take Marx and go, oh, because that's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. As boop, consumption. And again, all of it happens at once for Marx. There's no like, cool, we're going to have a factory, we're going to make things. And then now we're making things. And then now we're consuming things. And that's capitalism. It's like, no. Capitalism is where all of it's happening at once. Production's always happening. That's the point. Production's constant and simultaneous. Read Marx. Please read Marx. Please read Marx. To continue. Everywhere the recordings, the information, the transmissions form a grid of disjunctions of another type than the preceding connections. Okay. Everywhere the recordings, the information, the transmissions form a grid of disjunctions of another type than the preceding connections. This is explicitly distancing itself and separating itself, not like in terms of time, but like saying, this is what this one does. This is the thing. This is the thing we're doing now. The second synthesis, distinguished from the first as a thing. That's what they're sort of driving at. The syntax of the flux cut, the disjunction is the syntax of code. There's a really complicated word inside of this. The grid of disjunctions, the transmissions form a grid of disjunctions. In the French, one second. Okay. Here's the same sentence, but this is the word that's like, okay. Quadrillage, quadrillage. That's for all you French people who really hate me. Quadrillage is a really weird word. And this is maybe more about me talking about, like, I don't know, journeys I had while doing this translation. Quadrillage is weird. And it doesn't exist, like, it isn't a neutral term, right? It's about carving territories into control squares and gridding up. So like an army would overlay or when they take a city, they perform quadrillage on all of the areas here. Okay, that's zone B, zone A. It's like a sports team, right? It's not tessellation. See, tessellation is neutral. This is not neutral. It's already an enforcement of power. That's what, as I understand it, and I've spent a lot of time, I've asked a lot of people about this, but it's specifically about sort of the way capture operates here. That's why they bring it up. It's kind of a big deal, right? How do I even put this? Quadrillage is really complicated, but it's a big deal here. The recordings, the information, the transmissions form a grid of disjunctions of another type than the preceding connections. The grid that's being formed there has a force behind it. I could not figure out how to translate this, is my short version of this, by the way. This is like a really weird word, and I don't think it's possible to find an English word for it that I could figure out. Because it's an intimation that the second syntheses is where power becomes enforced. Gerrymandering's similar. Zoning is similar. But there's a very particular usage here that is really complicated because Here is where power can be found, or at least the beginnings of it. The exclusive use of the disjunction, which is chapter 2, is going to go super deep into it, the illegitimate usages here. But it's a big thing. It's a big thing here. I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to go super deep, but like that's the thing that they're driving at here, right? Is cartography close? No. This is, it is about control. Quadrillage is, let's take words it's similar to. If I say I'm performing triage, okay? Specifically, I'm not just saying, yeah, I'm just going to be doing some medical stuff, right? No, triage has a behind it, like, oh, fuck. Like it's got that feeling. Quadrillage is very much the same. It isn't identical in wording, but it's that same thing of like, oh, there's behind it. There's some other thing. I don't know how to describe it. I am not smart enough, but I leave it to smarter people than me. So if you hear this and you're smarter than me, which is probably most of you, that's the difference. It'd be like, yeah, no, I'm spending my afternoon. I'm going to smoke a few joints and do some triage. That's not how it works. It's not a neutral term. It is force and military and all of that beat within it. The dividing up in all of it. There's an intensity behind it. Yeah, exactly, Anton. It's really interesting, but we can continue. It's not as important, just that I get across that here is where this happens. It falls to Lacan to have discovered this rich domain of a code of the unconscious, winding around the chains or chains of the signifying, and to have thus transformed analysis. The basic text in this regard is the purloined letter. So Lacan's awesome. Good job. Okay. If you have a copy of Écrits, which sucks to read in like every way possible, the purloined letter is basically the best seminar that's in there. It's maybe I already said it's one of the best things Lacan's done. It's an amazing piece to read. And it's like, I still go back to it. Despite everything else, I still go back to it because it's such an interesting mental space that he was in to have this reading of it. The whole point of the purloined letter, God, do I want to get into this? Don't care. I don't care. I don't think I want to. But the whole point is the letter in the story that Poe has, okay? There's a letter and people don't want people to find it, but everyone's kind of looking for it. And it's got bad stuff in there that has implications and everyone kind of knows. We're not reading purloined letter, Cruel Drew. I'm not doing that right now. Oh God. Maybe we'll do a reading of it at some point. But the whole point is that for Lacan, we've been reading it backwards, and I had been reading it backwards, where everyone's looking for the letter, and they changed. Oh my God, but wait, it's more that the letter itself, as it circulates, it actually determines the position of the subjects who receive it. The letter doesn't mean anything itself. Who has the letter matters a lot more. Who has the letter is what determines all of those things. Thank you. I'm going to post that on YouTube. If you want to go read Lacan's thing, it is not an easy read, but it is, again, I consider it to be fucking super brilliant and super good. So with this idea that the letter, as it circulates in the story, sort of determines everyone in it. And it really does. It's again, fantastic fucking subversion, like just completely blew me away the first time I ever read it. Purloined Poe is a wonderful book that grows this out incredibly well. But the thing that they're taking from it here is that the chain itself works without the letter signifying anything. We actually, and it's one of the things about the story, again, didn't notice my first time. Maybe you guys did. Maybe you're smarter than me. That's great. But we never actually learn what's in the letter. It's a MacGuffin of MacGuffins. It's a MacGuffin par excellence, because the letter determines everyone in the story, but it never means anything. It doesn't even have value. We don't even know if it has value. The content is never disclosed in it. And it doesn't need to be. It would ruin the story if it did, it sort of retroactively, but it wouldn't ruin the good parts. But this is the trap that's being set, right? Because we're going to be going through this, and they're singing those praises of Lacan. They're like, hey, you've done this fucking thing. You nailed it. You figured this shit out. Good job. Right? You nailed this. And this is the thing. The signs doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They circulate. They don't matter. Not in that way. They don't matter in that way of signifying. So they're going to be spending some time in it, and they're going to go, but wait, you have this when Guattari, who wrote Machine and Structure, which is really good, especially if you come from Lacan at all, it's really good. Basically, what he wrote, if you have a background in Lacan, this is my best summary I have for what Guattari did. Lacan spent a lot of time talking about the object petit a, this idea of the object of desire, the object a, right? It was foundational to so much of blah, blah, blah. Guattari went, well, wait, what if the object a is not actually like an absence? What if it's a cut? And what if that cut is machinic, not structural? What if it's being produced and not predetermined? This is Deleuze basically going, yep. This is basically going, all right, Felix, give me the next fucking note card. Keep writing, because this is Felix at his best. Machine and Structure is one of the just amazing pieces that if you want to understand more of this book, go find it and read it. It's very good. But then you'll also have to go read all the stuff he's sort of predicated on. But that's the thing he's playing with here, is that same idea. There's cuts, right? So Lacan discovered this rich domain of the code of the unconscious. But how strange this domain is by virtue of its multiplicity, to the point where one can scarcely speak of a chain or even of a desiring code. They're very French shitting on him here. Like, it's just very French people. What Lacan discovered is not what Lacan thought he discovered. More or less. And the problem is multiplicity. The Bergsonian concept of it, or Riemannian, whichever one you want to sort of call, he talks about both in difference repetition. The thing is multiplicity for them and for Guattari, Machine and Structure. Multiplicity is the alternative to structure. If a domain, if a registry of things, if a modality is itself multiple, genuinely multiple, then the chain is the singular as error. So code can't actually be singular, right? So you can't say the desiring code in Lacan's work. It's actually kind of a fucking stab in the heart, to be frank, of the entire corpus. That you can't say the desiring code. Whatever is down there in this system of signs and chains, whatever it is not one. It's not one. So it's not a system. And as such, it can't really have a master term. More or less, they're just, again, repeating Machine and Structure and Guattari's writings on this. But it's said very, very pointedly here. Pointedly. And so they continue to be pointed and shitty. The chains are said to be signifying because they're made of signs, but these signs are not themselves signifying. So let's turn the knife as we go, right? Because this is the whole Lacan paragraph thing. And it's a very particular distinction. For Lacan, the chain is called signifying, right? Because it is composed of signs. It's a signifying chain because it's chains. It's the signs in a chain of meaning. Signification, chain, blah, blah. You chain them together. That's how you get meaning. There you go. That stuff. But being composed of signs doesn't actually make them signify. Logic of sense, Deleuze has a really, really clean way of putting it. Again, I think Guattari did it better, but I think Deleuze is crisper when we talk about it. Signification is predicated on more signification. You can't hit bottom. There's no end to it. It necessarily doesn't stop. You ever say, hey, what does this mean? Oh, let me look it up in the dictionary. Oh, what does that mean? Most kids do this to their parents at some point, and then eventually the parents get very exasperated and go, because I said so. And that's the reason, because it never stops. Signification doesn't complete. There are only signs, and signs do something else. They don't actually signify. We don't actually or signs don't make signs signify. That's not how they operate. Right? This is gonna be a big play as we make our way through, but like if signs signified, then desire would be structured like a language. It would be structured by lack. This is great. This is Lacan's thing. That's what Lacan is going for. That's great. But it kind of falls apart when you start asking about how they get there. What causes signs to signify? Oh, it's desire. Well, wait, the lack of it, it becomes this like sort of swirling in and of itself, like just fundamentally. And D&G just basically slice it off at the root, and they kill it right here. They're like, no, signs produce. They do not stand in for things. They're not signs of a thing. Cruel Drew, it literally stops with the father because he is so tired. And I empathize. So they continue. The code resembles less a language than a jargon, an open and polyvocal formation. Jargon is a very, very particular word here. Language versus jargon. Language has grammar. Language has a enclosed set of rules and syntactical structures and univocal reference. Okay? Jargon is idioms that are used within particular working setups, within professions, within localities. They are words that are contaminated or played with, whatever, right? That they're made of things that are borrowed. The code is less language, more jargon, and an open polyvocal formation. Polyvocal is a big deal. It's set in opposition here to biunivocal, which we're going to get to in this paragraph. Don't worry. But biunivocal means one-to-one correspondence. Sign signified sign, blah, 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 blah. The idea that psychoanalysis works this way, which is generally how people talk about it, that everything corresponds to a particular thing, biunivocal relations. Polyvocal, as we went through the beginning, is multifaceted and open-ended. The mouth can be whatever. It's joining various regimes as it goes. Right? It's opening up regimes as it goes and joining and joining and joining as it goes. More or less. The signs there are of any nature whatsoever, indifferent to their support. The signs there are of any nature whatsoever, indifferent to their support, or is it not the support that is indifferent to them? The support is the full body. Okay. They're of whatever nature. I probably should switch that around. The signs there are of any nature whatsoever. They don't give a fuck. They're of whatever. Signs are indifferent to their support. They're not built on supports that they're attached to. This is the exact opposite way they come about. This is the opposite way it comes about. The signs as they go are heterogeneous in kind. Okay? And they're going to be talking about this in a second. We'll get to the ribbon little girl shop and shoe and remind me to come back to make sure I drive this point home. But the point is the thing. If signs are indifferent to their support, Wait, no, wait. Or is it not that the support is indifferent to them? Because the support is the full body. The definition of the body without organs. Hey, look, we come back around to it. The recording surface doesn't give a fuck what's written on it. The BWO is indifferent to the signs. They're indifferent to the signs. Are all signs singular? No, that's the opposite of the point. Signs are not singular. That's very much what they're saying. There's no signs are singular. Like, that's just not how it works. So the signs here are indifferent to the surface that they are on. Well, they're not indifferent to the surface. It's the surface where they get recorded. The surface is indifferent to the signs, because nothing that is recorded on the surface changes the surface. If you haven't read Spinoza, just wait until we get to chapter 3. Every fucking other sentence I'll be saying, like, if you haven't read blah, blah, blah. But this is Spinoza's substance. That's it. This is the Spinoza substance as a thing. The support is indifferent to them. The substance is indifferent to the modalities. That's the thing. And the point of the body without organs as immanent substance is in play here. Indifference to modes that are inscribed on it is what substance attribute relations without modes would look like. What if you read Spinoza and didn't understand a word of it? That is possible. Deleuze's Guide to Spinoza is excellent, very short. He has 2 books. Practical Philosophy is the short one. Goddamn Brooks. Expressionism and Philosophy. His other book on Spinoza is wonderful. Empiricism is some... Deleuze needs more letters to start books with. That would be my argument. I'm not going to, I really hate Hurley's thing here. I have notes on it. I'm just going to move on. The signs there are of any nature whatsoever, and they continue. They have no plan, work at all levels and all connections. Each speaks its own language and establishes with others syntheses all the more direct and transversal as they remain indirect in the dimension of elements. This is totally Guattari, screaming through it. Transversality, if you haven't read it, great shit. Years before this as well, but just really good. Transversality is just fantastic. For him, it talks about this coefficient of communication that exists between levels of hierarchy within institutions. I'm going to simplify it more than I should, but I think it gets the point across nicely. Let's say there's a hospital where things are fine, but suddenly, you notice that actually that this one hospital, patients are getting a lot more care. Like, they're being cured at a weird level compared to all the other hospitals around it. And you go in and you look around, you're like, well, look, it's the same stuff. It's the same stuff. But in this hospital, the nurses are banging the doctors. Now, why is that important? Well, it's one of those really weird things. Pillow talk and relationships make outside the norm discussions. If you've ever worked at any company that had very, very rigid matrixed organizational quotas or setups, you go to meetings, you have reports, you put in the things that are reports you're expected to. So you put them in, and that gets passed up. But people who be fucking, again, I'm oversimplifying, obviously, but people who be fucking, they're going to go, oh, I just had the worst day yesterday with Mr. Johnson. Oh yeah, why's that? Boom, you've gone outside of that, and suddenly people are actually talking about the things that they want to be, that matter to them, that's like the deal. This is a transversality. This is the transversal. This is the break in those things. Because, and here it is generalized, but it's breaking through the vertical hierarchy and also the horizontal groupings. Because both of those things necessarily are blockages. This transversal, so, whoop, as a thing. Joan asks, does AO do a lot of work in the philosophy of language? Yes. Like literally we're doing it right now, but chapter 3 is basically that. And I have a video coming out soon about a guy who they introduce, Yelmslev, who's basically all of that. But this is the idea for Guattari's work, is like the transversal, the thing that breaks the hierarchy. It's why rhizomatic comes about. It's why all of these terms, this is the idea. Psychoanalysis and Transversality is the compendium in English. You can find it literally everywhere. You can also buy a copy. It's good. But the idea is here specific with signs. Signs, I don't know, signs that can't reach each other on the plane of elements, they reach each other transversally. And the less direct the relation, the more direct the transversal synthesis. Okay? What does people who be fucking mean here? Is it literal? Oh, it's literal. Oh, I'm being quite literal. I'm pretty sure, I may have just now read other people. I'm pretty sure Guattari is very particular even about the affairs of nurses and doctors as a thing. But it's anything that breaks that hierarchical or grouping. Nurses will talk amongst themselves. They report in to doctors via bureaucratic methods. And then that transversal. And it can be afterwards at a bar. It doesn't have to be fucking, but it fucking could be good. But like go into a bar. When I was working at Lucas, one of the things that would be incredibly invaluable to everyone's week is we'd all end our Fridays going to this bar called the Final. And everyone would just get fucking trashed. But as we would get trashed, it would be the art team, the engineering team, the design team, the marketing team, the production staff, everyone there, and everyone bitching about their week. And it would solve so many problems it's hard to even talk about. And that's incredibly important. But then, of course, if you started trying to actually build that into a system, formalize it, it's no longer transversal. Good work. You've killed the thing. But that's more the like casual version. The thing that they're saying here is actually incredibly radical. Raiko, I wish that was not true. I hate that you put that image in my head. But that's the thing that they're getting at here is actually very much, this is Yelmslev. The inverse proportionality of things, right? The more that two code can't like reach each other along normal setups, the more direct and transverse the synthesis is. That inverse proportionality is the claim. And it's a big fucking deal as we go through this. It's fundamental to the book. This is how the wasp and the orchid connect. Boy, I wonder if they're going to be mentioning anything like that soon. Two organisms with no relation at the level of elements at all, joined by this transversal capture. They have no plan. There's no blueprint. There's no plane of organization. Signs are not organized from above. They're not organized from above. It's emergent. The disjunctions proper to these chains do not yet imply any exclusion. Exclusions being able to arise only through a play of inhibitors and repressors that come to determine the support and fix a specific and personal subject. This is the doctrine at play here. The second synthesis is a synthesis because of this, not just a logic. Disjunction at this level is inclusive. Either or inclusive. Go read up on on disjunction. Inclusive disjunction is not either or. It's either or. There is no exclusions It's inclusive. It's inclusive of all terms. Exclusive disjunction is not the native form of the thing. It is a thing that is added or placed or repressed by inhibitors, by repressors. That is not always bad, by the way. Yeah, like, just so you know, it's not, don't breathe water. Fucking oppressor. I'm going to go fucking breathe. No, please don't do that. It would, you know what? Actually, if you think that, you probably should just go do that. That'd be great. That would save me a lot of time. And probably open up good parking spots. It's not that all repression's bad. Please, dear God. Please, dear God. Please, dear God. This is just the production of these things, right? It's open-ended. The language that they're using here, and again, to pull back from where it's not linguistics, suddenly we're back in biology. Inhibitors and repressors. This is, again, Jacob Monod, the Nobel winners, right? This is the whole thing. Like the years before this, as DNA and how it works and how certain cells build certain things. The repressor protein binds the operator and switches transcription off. That's why your skin cells aren't blood cells, or why you don't get cancer. Okay? Like, there's parts of you that this is how this works. This is the point they're making. This is the thing. It's a deliberate refusal of traditional linguistic models, and also the Freudian model of the unconscious, right? Like, this is not repression. They go really particular when they use this in the French, and it gets lost in the English, and it's a shame. Represseur, EURS, right? Is what they're using here. It's from repression. It's more biological, scientific. It's not refouler or refoulement, right? And that they're keeping them separate in the French is a big deal here. That's why I'm making the note, and this is going to be, at some point when I get my version control, this is going to be the fucking annotation here. But that's the point, is that this is not refoulement. This is not Freudian repression. This is the repressive element of genetics or biology. The switch turns off. That's it. It's not that it's repressed by some unknown thing or some other, no. It's repression's created in the way that it's created biologically. Machine unconscious happy hour is lovely. And that's all I say there. I don't think they care for me, which is fine. What am I going to say? But it is the point here. And it's kind of a big deal as a thing. To continue. No chain is homogeneous, but resembles a procession of letters of different alphabets. And where there would suddenly surge an ideogram, a pictogram, the small image of an elephant passing or a sun rising. All of a sudden in the chain which mixes without composing them, phonemes, morphemes, etc., there appears Papa's mustache, Mama's raised arm, a ribbon, a little girl, a cop, a shoe. I really love this. This is a demonstration of heterogeneity, which is from Logica Sense, and I think, again, I can't recommend it more. Very, very, very good as a thing. Catmile asks, because it creates coercion. Refoulement, in the Freudian sense, is the one that's more coercive or specific. This is much more generative and affirming. The biological setup. You would never say, oh, the cell turned off because it's been repressed by itself. It's like, what? No, it's like done doing the thing, and like it's got a part of itself that stops. So like the process is going. It doesn't stop, but there's things in the process that hold things back, that create the repression. Again, there's a reason that we have the reference to the Nobel Prize guys as a thing in this section a lot. To move on. Okay, There's a joke here about psychoanalysis that I want to make. Because they make it here, and it's again, English less clear, and also it's not a very good joke, but the joke it's an insult. They're French. What do you expect? But the whole thing that they're saying, it's like into this chain of phonemes and morphemes, which is the stuff of language. This is the stuff for Lacan the entire unconscious is made of. From there erupts an elephant, a sun, a mustache, a shoe, cop, blah, blah. The chain is not linguistic. The chain mixes registers that no grammar that exists could match or find sense in or anything. No grammar can mix them. The parenthetical, without composing them, that's kind of there's no synthesis into a higher unity. All of a sudden in the chain which mixes, without composing them, without turning them into a synthesis, without doing the Hegelian, it's all one thing up. No, there's no higher unity. Ever. Everything is produced in the interactions of all of these things at that moment. And it's continuing. There is only the multiplicity. There's no higher unity that exists. And that's what distinguishes a heterogeneous chain from structure. This is why this is not structuralism or even post-structuralism. This is not any of that shit at all. Any of that. And the content that they have of these eruptions is, and it can be a bunch of different stuff. They just name a handful of things. It's Papa's mustache, Mama's raised arm. They're particular. There's a bunch of stuff. 2 of these are Oedipal-ish. It's Papa's mustache, Mama's raised arm. But it's not Papa, Mama, me. It's because they're not denying that mom and dad are in there. If you don't have memories of your parents after they've raised you, especially in America, 18 years, come the fuck on. What the fuck is wrong with you? Of course, the smell of clothes, the way mom would do X, Y, or Z, the flavor of a cooked meal. The mom's involved in all of these things. Oedipus is there in the same way that a shoe is, right? Like a cop is doing pointed work in this for sure, because that's a piece of the social field, but it's doing the same thing as a shoe. And the parents. All of these things have implications to us, have implications in what we become. It's not Oedipus. It's not anti-mom and dad. It's there appears Papa's mustache, Mama's raised arm, a ribbon, a little girl, a cop, a shoe. All of these things are part of this. They hit us in this way. 6 nouns, all valuable in this way. All valuable in that way. Each chain captures fragments of other chains from which it draws a surplus value, as the orchid's code draws the figure of a wasp. Phenomenon of surplus value code. Hey, I wonder if they're making a reference to Marx. Anyone, did you know Marx was a writer? And he wrote books you should read? How can you even call Deleuze post-Marxist? It's so fuck. Surplus value code, right? Surplus value. This would be a Marx's term. This would be Marx. And it's here being used not economically. Well, it's an economy of sorts, but not as Marx sort of said it, but it's being applied in a much more grand way. It's being applied to a flower and a bug. The orchid's code, the orchid, which if you've never seen, go Google this. We're not posting this. This is easy. The orchid's code reproduces the image, all the different parts of a female wasp. And it does this right where it needs it, which is where the pollen and shit is, right? So a male wasp sees it and tries to fuck it, right? And as doing so, pollinates a flower, or gets the pollen to go fuck another flower and pollinates that flower. What's happening here, and it's hard for me to even be, I'm so fucking pissed about how people take so much of these things. The orchid's code draws the figure of a wasp. what happened is that one code captured a fragment of another code. And with that, it extracted something from it that neither code contained. That is a capture. That's a capture. And that word is going to become incredibly important as we go forward. It is a capture. This is, by the way, part of the repressive process. Yeah, nature has this in it. Oh, God. Oh, God, I thought nature was beautiful and we should blah, blah. No, this is the wasp and the orchid that they use. And it's the passage that opens Mille Plateaux, 1,000 Plateaus. This is it. This is the example of coding. Not becoming. It is the example of coding and how coding operates and how code operates. Okay? Why surplus value, though? Why do we talk about surplus value here? Because it is surplus, and extraction here is not exchange. Okay? That's why we're using the Marx term. What does the wasp get from the orchid? Nothing. It gets nothing. Nothing. The orchid gives nothing to the wasp. Something is drawn from a chain without compensation. That drawing makes the chain produce. It makes this entire process productive. They're setting this up, and it is a huge deal. If surplus value already operates at the level of code, then Marx's category of surplus is actually not a specifically socially economic one. And the isolation of political economy and libidinal economy from each other is not a thing to maintain. They're the same thing. We just have a economy. We have a economy. That's it. We just have a economy. Is everyone making sense there? I could say an economy. I'm being very particular with my language. A economy, because it's not libidinal. There's books around this. Oh, there's libidinal economy. How's the libidinal economy function? Then we have it's the economy. We have a economy. That's it. It's the economy. The economy of all of it. There's no libidinal. There's no financial. It's the economy. That's the setup. It is an entire system of switchings and drawings of lots that form partially dependent random phenomena close to a Markov chain. Switches. The phrase in French is aiguillage. Aiguillages. I'm sorry, I just killed 2 French people who heard me say that. I apologize. Switches. Railway switches, specifically railway switches. In cartoons, I don't even know if you kids know what a train fucking is, but they go ding, 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 and then like you hit a thing, and then the track goes, and then it goes down a different track, right? That's the entire system of switches. They literally say Markov chain. Correct. Yes, it's quite literal. They literally say Markov chain. We'll get to it. We'll get to why. It's important. Don't worry. You know what? Fuck it. We're just going to do it. There's 2 parts to this. The entire system of switches and drawing of lots. Drawing of lots is a lottery. Drawing of lots. Lottery. Come on. Do you see it? It's easy. Entire system of switchings and drawing of lots that form partially dependent random phenomena close to a Markov chain. The chain, because of this, is a system of switch points, of random pulls of a roulette or a jackpot or a fucking whatever you want to name, a fucking lottery machine. It doesn't matter. It is always locally determined and globally aleatory. The Markov chain is the best version of this. It is a stochastic process that doesn't have large readings of things and is not aware of the globality of a goddamn thing at all. The next state in a Markov chain only depends on one thing. The last state of the Markov chain, right? It doesn't depend on the entire history of it A Markov chain that does it's oh cool, that, now that. What about all that? Sorry, I'm on the next thing. It is memento the chain. Like, it's memento. That's it. It's always going. That's the setup. It's partially dependent aleatory phenomena. It's a precise usage of it. And this is, again, Raymond Rouillé. This is Raymond Rouillé. I see this as Raymond Rouillé. I don't know if they actually say that outright. Rouillé got fucking done super dirty by this. The genesis of forms of life. Yes. I recommend Raymond Rouillé. Because he uses the Markov chain to talk about genetic sequences very specifically. And he's right. Because your genes aren't like the DNA isn't like, yes, once upon a time, I was part of the chain that brought to America George Washington. Or better, yes, we German people were descended from the Aryans of India, or whatever. Your genes like, cool, there's stuff there. Now I made that. All right, bye. That's it. Malachi says, I know you spent a lot of time talking about it. I'm still unsure I understand what DNG are critiquing Lacan. So for Lacan, the unconscious is organized through networks of science, but the chain can't be reduced to a single underlying grammar because there are countless interacting codes that are continually organize and reorganize the flows of desire determining the science. Don't worry, we'll get to it. Maybe not today, because they didn't do the full critique here. They basically just, at this point, have said, hey, Lacan's entire thing, it's really interesting, and it's actually the big deal to understand how signs operate. They're just disconnecting the master signifier. That's all they're doing right now. Don't worry, critique isn't there. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot. So the function that is being used here by eliciting Markov chains and all of these things is to sort of get away from this structural model of order that these things have, right? A chain that has consistency without code that governs it from above. It's history without teleology. So if the unconscious is Markovian, then there's no signifier that presides over any of this. To go back to Malachi's point, actually, there can't be in this logic. There's no memory of the master signifier. There's no memory of the kind of Oedipal narrative system that the Oedipal narrative system requires in this. At all. I think I'm going to do the rest of this, most of this this is going to be a big push. We'll do the last sentence separate. The recordings and transmissions come from internal codes, from the external milieu, from one region to another of the organism, cross-following the perpetually ramifying paths of the great disjunctive synthesis. If there is writing there, it is a writing at the level of the real, strangely polyvocal, and never biunivocalized, linearized, a transcursive writing and never discursive. The entire domain of the real disorganization of passive syntheses, where one would seek in vain something one could call the signifier, capital S is important, and which ceases not to compose and decompose the chains into signs that have no vocation to be signifying. So they actually straight up name the second synthesis finally here, like they've mentioned it, and I've said it kind of enough, so maybe that's been confusing. But this is the great disjunctive synthesis. That's it. And they're characterizing it here as a writing, not writing, as a kind of writing, sort of. Yeah, that's how I'm going to say it. It's kind of a kind of writing, I think would be the phrasing. Yeah. Like, okay, so they line up a handful of real quick things in opposition, and it's being built through like the refusal of a handful of positions. They're saying it's polyvocal instead of biunivocal. It's not one-to-one mapped. It's not this sign means this signifier is this or attached to this. And that's the operation where normally seeing. Like psychoanalysis assigns every element of the unconscious into some Oedipal correlate. Lacan does the same exact thing. That's like the baseline of a lot of this, right? So the paralogisms in chapter 2 are going to be functional there, but they're like, no, it's polyvocal, it's not biunivocal. It's transcursive, not discursive. Transcursive, by the way, extremely cool word that we need to find a way to work into a lot more shit. Discourse, which is awful. I hate discourse. But discourse is linear, syntactic, sequential. It runs along things. Transcursive writing runs across things. It is transversal. This is a guattari coming through, obviously. It's the unconscious is written, but it's not written as discourse. It's written as transcourse. And do not make the mistake that I'm saying that it's all about being trans. Okay, I know. Ha 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 ha. They mean particularly the across, the transcourse, like transnational, across nations, trans in that sense. It's very particular here because the transversal is the point. The formula of Lacan's is explicitly being contradicted here in a very economical way. Writing is granted, but discourse is refused. Yeah. And then they end with the real, which is obviously a comment on Lacan, like very specifically, because they say it's writing is, well, I wish I could zoom in. Maybe I'll build that in as a thing. If there is writing there, it is writing at the level of the real. And the real is capitalized. They're being very particular. This is Lacan's real. They're being that. Lacan's real is, by the way, impossible. In Lacan, like it's an impossible thing. It's that which resists being symbolized. And they're like, yeah, that's where writing is. Because the real to them.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Since when an impossible thing is the thing that resists being symbolized? You can have a possible thing that
the real is impossible because it is resisting symbolization totally.
Oh.
The real cannot be symbolized fundamentally, right?
Well, it's true, but there's some things that is possible, but also resist being symbolized. But I think this is an ignored area in Lacan's readings. But I'll go.
No. It probably. I mean, that's later Lacan. So fair.
Yeah, I mean, this is it kind of brings up a very interesting question. Like, there are a lot of things that's very possible, yet it just keeps repeating without any explicit reasons. Now, is that something that is supposed to be impossible?
Synthome. I think you're talking about synthome and that kind of shit, right?
It doesn't have to be that far into the Lacan things, but this is good. This is a good question to raise. Thank you.
Well, so I would say that the direct response, and it's what they're saying that is really interesting here, for me, and you might start to understand how the real implies and how Guattari was able to turn it what he did, because for Lacan, the real is more or less, and I'm probably oversimplifying by saying it, but it's more or less like denotating a limit of symbolization or the way that we can understand things. There's a point with which we can't, like, symbolization can't go outside of itself. We enter into language and the symbolic entirely at once. There's no being partially in it. So it's a limit. They don't see it as a limit. They see it as a surface on which inscription happens. Hint. Huh? What's the real? What? So that's like the thing that they're.
Say it again.
The body without organs. It's a body without organs.
Okay.
The real is not a limit. It's instead a surface. It's the surface of inscription. That's what the real is. That's what they're writing about here. It's writing at the level of the real. Polyvocal, but not biunivocalized. Linearized. Transcursive writing, never discursive. The entire domain of real disorganization of paths of syntheses, where one would seek in vain something one would call the signifier. It's capital S, big emphasis, which ceases not to compose and decompose the signs into the chains into signs that have no vocation to be signifying. And that's the phrasing they're using here. It's that they're really playing with fundamentally. The last sentence, though, I want to get to the last sentence, and then this has been a lot. I might phrase myself real quickly. To produce desire, such is the only vocation of the sign in all the senses in which it is machined. Okay, first sentence that we went over. Every machine comprises, in the second place, a sort of code that is machined, stockpiled in it. To produce desire, such is the only vocation of the sign in all the senses in which it is machined. So, we're closing the point made by the opening here. The code is machine. The sign is machined. Everything in between is kind of an argument that the sign doesn't signify. And this is more or less the positive statement of what it does instead. This is what it does. It doesn't signify. Instead, because it's not a representative. It's not a representation of some absent object. That's not what the sign is. That's our mistake of understanding what the sign is. And again, chapter 2, we'll get heavily into that. Things aren't representational. It's not that it refers to this thing. That's not the setup here. It's actually the opposite. It is an operation that makes something real. The cuts make the thing real. Yeah, the cuts make the thing, and then we name the thing becomes real. The position of desire that they're talking about here, the production of desire, that's the thing at the center of it. And it is the only vocation of the sign. Vocation is such an interesting, archaic word, but it means like your calling, the thing it is built for to do. It is its vocation. It has one calling, and it is not to mean something. Just to shit on Hurley for a second. I think it's important to take, because it's the French is j'entends dans tous les sens ou car c'est machine. I need to just do it in my southern accent. It's all the senses in which it is machined. Hurley has it as engineered in every direction. Dude, eat shit. Seriously. Just terrible. Just fucking terrible. Terrible. But more or less, this is the sort of drive we've been sort of pushing at. Right? This is going through the second syntheses and setting it up. And next week, we go deeper into chains. Oh, God, it's going to be a lot. These chains are ceaselessly the site of detachements in all directions. I'm pretty excited for where this goes. But we're not quite there yet. Not yet. Not yet. So today, I'm going to go ahead and close out. Ugh, tired. Tired, beaten up. Arachne. Oh, hey, Arachne. I didn't know that was your new profile pic. So discursivity is longitudinally extended, while transcourse extends transversely. Discourse is dealing with the things that it is either hierarchically or horizontally grouped or placed within the hierarchies of. Transcourse is breaking outside of that. It's beyond that type of thing. It's very particular. Transcourse is across, instead of discourse, it's across conversations, cross conversations, across conversations is the idea, more or less. Like I says, is the idea of the surplus value of code that every chain of desire borrows fragments from it. There's no chains of desire. That's not really how chains of desire work. That's not a thing. These chains are ceaselessly the site of detachements in all directions. Different thing, different setup. Chains of meaning don't really work here in the same way. Specifically, the surplus value of code is talking through the economic reality of all of this. It's not that it's, again, Marx isn't just doing like economics of capitalism. He's doing fundamental production of everything. And that's what they're bringing in. And they're saying, hey, in the same way that in capital, there's no way to do an exchange or anything without a bit of excess. The same is true of signs. And they use the orchid and the wasp. Sure, you could say, oh, there's a perfect exchange there. The wasp gets to fucking orchid. That's weird. First off, weird, creepy. Secondly, there's more that's being done with all of it. Like there's excess being left over. There is not exchange, but extraction that's taking place. It's a fundamentally Bataillean view of the general economy versus a closed economy where there's no closed economy because it's all the general economy, more or less. More or less is how I'd phrase it. But now my brain's dying. For those of you on YouTube, I'm going to go ahead and close out, and I'm going to send you over to Richard's going to be going live. That'll be fun. There's not a lot of people live today, so I'll be sending you where I send you, and it has been lovely, YouTube. All right. We should be clear of YouTube any second now, by the way. I hope we are. I don't know. 2 seconds. Don't say anything.